Hello, my workplace warriors, and welcome back to another episode of Dear HR Diary by Management Hart, the unfiltered truth you wish they taught you in management school. And guess who I have back? I have Katie. Yay!
Hey.
Okay, so I'm so excited. Katie and I are having so much fun doing this. Like, we could gab for hours. In fact, I think we probably will gab for hours. We like literally will send each other the funniest little
Right.
TikToks or
We've been
memes because it's
definitely
so funny.
texting and keeping up offline a lot.
So in fact, we're already planning like future podcasts and some really funny snarky ones. So if you joined us on our podcast from the previous week, we talked about generations in the workplace, and we did a kind of an introduction to the different five generations that we have in the workplace now. Now some are weaning out, and that's no offense to the traditionalists, but they're retiring or unfortunately passing. But that is a shrinking group, if you will. The traditionalists, if you recall, were known as the silent generation. They were the ones that were born from 1928 to 1945. Then we have the baby boomers. And Katie, were your parents baby boomers? My parents were. Do
Yeah.
you
Yeah. And I
know
just
that? Yeah.
spent almost a week with my baby boomer mom.
God
Got
love
to
you.
use some of my own tips in that one.
The baby boomers were born between 1946 and 1964. And if y'all recall, they were born because the silent generation came back from war and they got busy. That's the best way. Making the babies. Those baby boomers are also leaving the workplace, just not as greatly as they had originally predicted. And I think COVID had a lot to do with people staying in the workplace in that particular age bracket. Then we have the best generation, the smallest generation, but the most crazy generation. That's the Gen Xers, and that's the generation Katie and I are in. The generation that has the best music. And quite frankly, we're
Feral kids
around
win.
feral Americans. I said that the other day when I was talking to my friends. I'm like, we're feral. They're like, yeah, we drank for garden hoses and, we're daredevils and never came home until the lights and, never heard
Yeah.
about people getting kidnapped.
Nope.
Um, we were our own social media. In fact, obviously, if you think about our generation, we were around before the internet, and now we're around while the internet is, obviously taken off.
I do think we're
Um,
also the most adaptable just for that reason.
oh
It's like
yeah,
we can do it all.
I would 100% agree with that. Then the millennials and the Gen Y. Somebody told me they're the Gen Wine, and I was like, oh, like wine as in WINE, and they're like, no, WHINE, and I'm like,
Um,
whoa. Well, that's sad, but I have four millennial babies, and they were born from 1981 to 1996. And then I think Katie, you said you had a millennial baby too, right? A millennial and a Gen
No,
Z?
no, she's a pure Z.
Oh, she's a pure
She's
Z. Okay.
raging with the Z.
And that brings us to the last generation that is just now entering the workforce. And that's the generation that was born between 1997 and 2012, also known as Gen Zs.
Oh wait, now is Z
They,
to 2012? Because I have
yeah.
then I have two Zers because I thought I had an alpha because I have a niner too, a
Oh, oh,
2009. So
oh,
see,
yeah, no.
look, I'm learning something new, Dawn.
Oh my gosh. So those are, and they all represent the reason that they're lumped that way is because of birth rates and how the Census Bureau kind of tracked them and different events that have actually really impacted their lives, anywhere from like the Great Depression and the war to the space shuttle Challenger blowing up that we actually watched when I don't know about you, but we
I
watched
do
when I
remember
was in
that. I
elementary
actually,
middle school. Yeah.
yeah, I remember watching it.
It was terrifying. And my teacher was
Yeah.
like stunned. My teacher was like, we might
Yeah.
want
What
to
do you
turn that
even
off.
say to that?
Or the millennial Gen Ys, which, have been raised on the internet. They didn't even know life before the internet, which I think is hilarious. Or they didn't even know. This is another fact that they never really were raised around cameras that had film, like the film that you take out and you drop off at the, photomart, and you have the film actually produce pictures,
Yeah.
which is even more astounding if you think about that. And then lastly, the Gen Z, which were born with a cell phone in their hand,
Yep.
in the womb, they have their
Right.
cell phone attached to their hands. So as we dive into that, let's talk about those traditionalists. They obviously make it the smallest percentage because they are the older ones. Generally, they have retired. I told the story about my Walmart greeter. Kind of what are some of the values that the traditionalists share?
It's just loyalty almost to a fault.
Mhm.
Like, you, and I hate saying it like that, but they think that longevity equals loyalty. And so they will tolerate being someplace way longer necessarily than they probably should because they'll just wait their turn. And that's the concept behind them.
Mhm.
Um, but again, there's something to be said to have that much of a value and loyalty as well, and putting the work, and they're just hard workers, and that is who they are. They live, breathe, smell it, for lack of a better term.
So it sounds like obviously because they're loyal and they respect that, it sounds like they really value structured and stable work environments. I mean,
Sure. I
they
mean, it's
probably
all
wouldn't thrive in a chaotic startup.
new. They like, agendas and scheduled out tasks, and not, sporadicness, and very consistency. And, that's what they thrive upon. They don't question management. They have faith
Mm.
in their leaders. There's that almost dangerous amount of loyal to your leaders, loyal to the org, loyal to trust, loyal to your team members. They don't like people jumping spots. I do know that.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. And for the kind of the stuff that I've read, they actually traditionalists might be used to transactional leadership. So it's they thrive on transactions that you perform your job. And obviously what I mean by transactional leadership is you perform your job and you get a paycheck. And that's
Right.
basically what you get out of the job is your paycheck. So there's not any emotional investment in it. It's like I'm coming to
Correct.
work, I'm doing my job. I want a very structured environment. And then kind of almost I'm going to check out and go home. So there's not a whole lot of tie to that. What are some things that you can do to maybe retain your traditionalist workers?
I
What do you
think
think they're really looking for?
I think structure but flexibility at the same time, because I don't think they necessarily want or need to work the extensive amount of hours of maybe a regular
Mhm.
full-time employee. Plus, they don't need benefits. So,
Mhm.
flexibility in their scheduling, just to accommodate what they need. I think that's probably huge. Giving them the structure, obviously, limited technical things
Yeah.
like talk to these people. Let's talk to them. Let's have a meeting. That's what they like. Just 10
So
minutes. Let them
Slack
know.
channel is probably not the best thing for a
No, don't
traditionalist.
don't don't Slack them. God, I struggled with Slack, so I can't even imagine Nana, you know, on
Oh
a
my gosh.
Slack.
Hey, you just brought up a great point, right? You just said Nana. So that instantly made me think my mom's a Nana. And so what I find interesting about my mom isn't in the workforce anymore, but if my mom were to be working, I think that she would really like that mentorship or that I want to be a mentor for somebody. Could you see that, like she tried to treat them like their grandkids, like she wants to help them and like mentor them.
Right. Right. I think it
Yeah.
goes both ways. I think the reverse mentorship is important too. So getting that dynamic person that wants to learn some of the old school values and the way things
Hmm.
traditionalists and how they do, versus also somebody being open to like, oh, I could learn something new from my younger peers as well.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Now, I also, that's a valid point about benefits and these employees' flexibility. So these could be a lot of part-time employees. So if you're looking to fill some of those part-time hours or those part-time gap, you don't really need somebody maybe to do like a long stint. And one of the reasons that part-time is really good for this group because it could impede on Social Security benefits or it could impede on some type of additional income that they have. So if you're
Right.
going to hire a traditionalist, you probably want to make sure that you aren't interfering with some other government benefits that they might actually have.
Yeah. And I think I really don't understand why employers get so kind of weirded out by part-time employees a lot. Because what they don't realize is what I think it's the number three workplace flexibility and, autonomy and flex scheduling or, work remote, whatever. You have an on-site position, you may not be able to do remote, but there are people that like to work just very few hours, don't need benefits. And therefore, that looks like flexible work by just offering part-time positions.
Yeah. I think part-time is great for Nana. Nana wants
Yeah.
to get out of the house and,
Nana, Yeah, Nana's
Well,
needs a break from everybody else. She probably needs it from Papa, because if it's anything like,
girl, same. I gotta get
yes,
out of the
I
house and
don't
get
want to
away from my
hear
husband.
Bonanza at like a level 73 volume.
That's true. Okay. So part-time boomers, that's awesome. And then that mentor-mentee relationships. All right. Let's move into our parent stage, the baby boomer stage. So while many baby boomers have already reached that retirement stage, many of them want to continue working. I think that bodes into the type of personality that baby boomers have. In particular, they want to feel needed.
Yeah.
Um, they're very similar to our traditionalists, so they don't switch they don't switch careers throughout. They purely believe in paying their dues. What kind of ideal work environment would be great for a boomer?
On site, I do think in this workplace, they actually don't thrive remotely. I think,
Hmm.
I just, again, I feel like I did field research for this last week. And anytime like the fire stick didn't work, or I mean, right down to not being able to get the oven to say bake, there was like, I had several boomers in my house between my fiance and myself, and it was like they just can't, like their brains just shut down. So, and that's okay. Like I can't imagine, because majority of their work life did not involve all this crazy tech stuff. So getting them, now everything revolves around technology. It's like, nope, nope. They just want to talk to a human. I don't know how many times my dad says that when he like wants to make an appointment, or,
Hmm.
file something with a department of license or whatever. He's like, I just want to talk to a human. And it's really hard now because of all the bots and AI, and to get through out of a phone tree or online or whatever. So, yeah, I think that
100%.
human aspect is really, really important.
I also, they, from what I've seen on baby boomers, they get motivated from rewards more than personal recognition. So I think rewards are like, I'm gonna give you a personal parking space in the parking lot, as opposed to like, me as a Gen Xer, I'm like, I don't care where I park, but I just noticed that they love praise, and they really like to be rewarded and recognized for their efforts. I
I
see
think
a
they
lot of
like
that.
titles too. I think
Yeah.
so, these are our title people,
Hmm.
but again, they will live, die, and breathe the same place forever. And they do their their time, and then that's how you get promoted. So
Hmm.
they want that title to be affiliated with their role, and where they are in the hierarchy.
I
So
think that's a valid point too when you think about what was going on when they entered the workforce, right? So the baby boomers were that workforce that both parents were going back to work.
yeah,
Divorce was on the increase. Working moms were unheard of when their parents were working, or
no,
if they were
right.
working, they were more traditional roles. My mom worked for the phone company. She was an engineer in a group of all male engineers. So,
That
getting
was
into
super fun for her, I'm
fields
sure.
of,
So
I'm sure,
I'm
yeah,
sure they were
she tells stories about
appropriate
that.
all the time with her.
That's a whole nother story. Oh my gosh. But I do think that there was a shift in kind of how the work was viewed across from
Well, yeah,
female
but
and
I
males.
think also this is when people like salaried individuals were willing to work outside. It wasn't like the traditional like clock in, clock out, get out, go
Hmm.
home. These people were like, no, I'm going to do what it takes to get the promotion, get the job done. And they started working the insanity hours that now we all have to live up to the expectations of. It's
Yeah, we're
fantastic.
like, no, we're not doing that.
Thank God for the millennials being like, I kind of missed my parents.
Oh, it's funny. So, some of the research I did on this is basically baby boomers will likely assume the ship is on track unless authority lets them know otherwise.
That's
So
a good
that this,
point.
yeah,
And they
it's
trust management's going to let them know. That's the, like, they would tell me if something was wrong, they would tell
mhm.
me. And I'm thinking, oh, okay.
It's also like in the 80s and the 90s, when we were kids, or when we were watching our parents work, that was like the land of layoffs, downsizing, right sizing, all those topics that came off when it came to reduction in work. So we watched our parents, devote 20, 25, 30 years to an organization to then be laid off. And it's
I,
interesting the trust that our parents had, particularly I'm not pointing the finger at my parents in general, but it's interesting to see the trust that people had in organizations as
and it was
they
weird to
got
me
laid off.
because I'm originally from Dayton, Ohio, which the GMC Marine plant was in, which was one of those huge shutdowns where these people had lived their whole life, like from the time they were 18 to the time,
Mm-hmm.
where they were laid off, had worked their whole lives there. And they just came in and were like, hey, closing, meh, and the devastation that they felt, not only about losing their job, but it was like their identity. But they
Mm-hmm.
still like really trusted, like, oh, they'll figure out something. Well, they didn't. And,
Yeah.
but I do think when they ended up going and getting other positions, they went right back to that trust, which
Mm-hmm.
I once lost my position after, due to cuts and all the things that, it was an actual riff. And I will never forget just being like, I will never feel like this again. Like I
Yeah.
will, so I will self-protect and not, and that concept of we're family and we're all in this together. Now, at the end of the day, you are fulfilling an obligation of an organization. I kind of went off on a tyrant. I'm sorry.
No, which leads us straight into Gen Xers though. So that was a good segue. Like I'll give
Yeah.
you that one.
Oh,
How's
yay.
that?
Okay, good.
So these crazy baby boomers that raised us, great Gen Xers, and yes, I'm partial to Gen X, but I'm also excited about Gen Z. I'm not going to lie, just the cool stuff that the Gen Z has on the horizon is fascinating to me. But I think if you look at Gen Zers, they represent this traditional workplace culture break. It's like we're breaking away from what a traditional workplace looks like to kind of what we really would like it to look like. Now, we have strong work ethics, but flexibility is probably the number one thing for us,
Well, it's
just in
so
my
funny because
research.
I say we are like millennials with boomer guilt. It's like
I love that.
we're like, I don't really want to do it like my parents did it, but I feel really bad we're the people that when we have an unlimited PTO schedule for employer, they have to force us to take it because we feel
Mm,
guilty asking for it.
yeah.
So, meanwhile, like your millennials or your Gen Zers are just making it rain PTO. They're like, yeah, PTO for everyone. And we're like, is it okay? Do you mind? I mean, we really want to, but if you don't mind, I promise I'll log into my email and check it. You know,
And then we
that's who
do.
we are.
And then we do. Then we log in and check it. And then we have this like crazy guilt. Like,
Right. If you
huh.
need something, just call me. I mean, yeah, I mean, fine. I did it. I mean, like I said, I was off this past week recovering, and I was on there like, what's going
uh,
on? What's happening? What I just need to double check, make sure everything's going okay. Because I can't shut it off.
you know
I
what?
want
That's funny
to.
though. We also tend to be skeptical of authority, where our parents were like, they
Oh
valued
yeah.
authority. We're like, what the hell? And I think that came with the fact that we watched our parents get laid off.
Well, I also think it's like it's almost like this entrepreneurial spirit driven by the fact we were feral. It's like, yeah, we don't need you to tell us what to do. We literally made, hamburgers over the grill at 7. So we're
Okay, so that's
fine.
funny. Let's talk about work style right here. Um, we love clear feedback, and I think it's mostly because we never got it from our parents. They never told us crap. It
I
was like, who are
also
you?
think
I have children.
we handle constructive criticism the best. You can borderline
Mhm.
crush us, and we're like, yeah, thanks. I probably am doing that because our coaches like yelled at us and stuff then. We didn't, you literally run laps was a legit thing. Okay, I will run laps, you know.
Oh my gosh, that is so true. Like I think about track days. We also prefer efficiency, right? So we're the ones
Ugh,
that are like, don't talk to us.
right.
can you
Like
can you text
we
me
could have done this meeting with an email. By God, let's do it in an email.
that?
I
We
used to
also
hate we had
go ahead.
pre-meetings for meetings, like meeting
Oh
plans
Lord.
for meetings. I'm like, what is this? Yeah.
So how do we retain us? What keeps us happy?
Autonomy for one, like
Hmm.
letting us do what we do best and owning it. that will keep us and kind of staying out of our way while we
Mm,
do it. I mean, but
yeah,
a lot of us are like, we're kind of like buzzards right now. We're hawking for those boomers to fall out and be like, caw, we want your spot.
that's the best. No offense, boomers.
Yeah. I mean,
They're
just
like
saying.
rude.
It was like the silver tsunami for the longest time. And we're like, all right, where's that wave going? Everybody's kind of press pause. You're still here. Really want that
Damn COVID.
position.
See what
We
happens when
are
COVID happens.
we're pretty loyal. We're more hesitant to job jump just because that was beaten into our brains about the you have to
Hmm.
stay 5 years before you're like, looked at by some other organization. And we will always have a plan if we're moving. By God, I
Yeah.
will get stress sweats at the thought of people leaving their jobs. Like, what's your plan? What do you mean you don't have a plan? You need a plan. What's the plan? You need a plan. You know,
That's so true. Like I can't do that. I gotta have stuff in that. I gotta have 5,000 things in place before I can actually do that. And then when you do it, then when you do give notice, then we feel guilty. So
yeah.
there's
It's
that
like, I'm
guilt
so
for us.
sorry. You can call me even after I leave. I'll
I'll answer, I promise. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's talk about those millennials. So we have millennials. The millennials at the beginning of the Great Recession, so I'm talking like 2008, 2009, remember the housing market crush that sent us into that terrible recession, the Great Recession. So think about it, the older millennials had just started their career. So they were having a holy crap moment, obviously. They had the high student loan debt, inflated cost of wait, this sounds familiar. Inflated cost of living and a global crisis. This is like on repeat, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Oh my gosh. So
Sounds
with that,
oddly familiar.
I know I like did we rewind and replay? So
Yeah, but I mean, history does repeat itself in
right.
different forms. So it's just like fashion.
Yeah, God, go, God, please
God, my
awesome wash
child is
jeans all over
dressing
again.
me straight up 94 right now. I'm like, should have just saved my wardrobe.
Oh Lord. Okay, so what draws millennials to our workplace? What are they looking for?
Oh my God. They want a voice in everything. They want a
Yeah.
voice. They want a voice even when we don't want to hear their voice. But no, I mean,
A sense of belonging.
flexibility is huge. Like,
Hmm.
they want to determine their own schedule. They want the ability to, they're looking for just the ability to have the first question is, what's my time off schedule? Very often in those appointment agreements, they want to
Hmm.
literally know how fast they can get off before they're even signing the dotted line. So that's huge. They don't first, they think you can jump steps. They don't think just because I might have only been here a year, but if I'm best suited for this leadership role, I don't care that someone 5 years is above me. They're not great for
Hmm.
management. And I don't disagree with that, quite honestly.
Right.
So off, I mean, I have been in multiple organizations where longevity got you the management position, and then you ask the person, they didn't even want to be a manager. They just wanted
Right.
the money. And so they're super effective. Um,
That's another podcast.
right. So they don't believe in that traditional, you earn your time to get your position. So
Hmm.
they kind of had for a while there sort of unfeasible expectations of what they should be paid coming out of college.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're dealing with that too. I'm dealing with that at my house for my Gen Zers. I'm like, no, no, that's not.
You're not getting $25 an hour to scoop ice cream at the ice cream shop. It's not happening.
Yeah.
Keep dreaming.
If you chase money, you'll never get it. That's just
Yeah.
how it is.
Yeah, 100%. I also have found that millennials tend to, obviously, I hate saying work life balance. So let's just say work life interaction because work life balance, it never happens. There's not a true thing of that. But what I found with millennials is, they like those work opportunities. They love self care. They also are about self development, right? So they want that personal development. So if you're looking at keeping a millennial happy, it's offering them the opportunity to develop both in the job that they have or the job that they want or other skills. So, and that happened a lot of times when the millennials were like, oh crap, now the Great Recession starts. Now what I do, and a lot of them went back to graduate school. And that was a big tick up from people going back to school to increase their learning opportunities. So I think I've seen a lot of that as well.
For sure.
Um,
Professional development is huge with them. They want
mhm.
to know like they're also the ones that started culture. Did you ever, when we first started, like working and anyone talking about what's your organizational culture?
Yeah, you're like, what? My
And they're
what?
like,
My
no, I have to
culture?
like where I work. Like, I'm not going to spend more time with these people than my own family if I don't like where I work. So that was a huge driver of where organizational culture, like Southwest was one of the first ones to really push it. And then there
Yeah.
was a time where you couldn't even get an interview there because it was like the elite. So yeah,
Culture's
that,
huge. I 100%. And it's like not even just like culture when it comes to like the type of work environment. It's like the benefits that you offer. It's like the, do you have like happy hours have returned? Have you,
right.
do you offer financial security training? Do you offer goal setting? It's a sense of purpose with this group that's really kind of influx that piece of it.
Yeah, you can get real creative with your benefits with this group too. Like,
Yep.
because they're
Yep.
like, okay, great, health insurance, awesome, but what else do
Yeah.
you do for me?
They're also starting families. So that's another thing to think about with
Yeah, I
benefits.
mean,
But
they're
they're
pretty
starting
much into,
families later.
yeah, yeah. Some of the older ones are like having grown up kids, so now they're worried about saving for college for their kids because
Hmm.
they all tank. Or, and I'm so thrilled that this is finally a thing. We're all on like the same page that, hey, trades are valued too. Thank
Right. Yeah.
you.
Yeah. 100%.
You don't, I mean, we were so much told,
Go to
our,
college.
especially college, because all those people, all of our, my parents were both in trades, and then they would see these college, degree people come over them, and that was who was managing them, even though they didn't feel like it was necessarily appropriate. But they're like, oh, I'm never going to be told, my kid needs to be able to be in that role too.
Hmm.
So,
Well, we'll wrap it up real quickly with our Gen Zers. So our Gen Zers are just now entering the workplace. Just now. So you're getting some of those younger ones, 18, 19, 20, getting into the workplace. They value personal connection, empathy, which is hilarious. Communication style, which is also really big with this group, being able to talk to them, and mental health. What else are you seeing that make ideal work environments for this group?
I can definitely say the millennials are throwing a ticker tape parade that the Gen Zers have been through the workforce. Because for years, the millennials have been like, oh, they're entitled, oh, they're this. And now
Once a
Gen
month.
Z, and they're so innovative. By God, they can think of
Mhm.
like, I mean, I think of this sales guy I know, and I was like, hey, how's it going with your Gen Z that you're bringing into the workforce? Because they don't really care for that, old school, hey, I'm cold calling. He goes, I've got one that searches people's Instagrams and then DMs them, and he's getting calls left and right because he's sliding up in CEO's DMs. And I'm like, see, to me, that's an invasion of privacy, but it's a great sale, but it's innovative
Yeah,
and it's working.
absolutely. That is
So, I
so
mean,
true.
I think they're extra, but that phone is an extension of their being. So if you
Hmm.
have policies about, get ready, because either one, you better enforce it, or two, it's null and void because they're not going to put that phone down. They're just
That
not.
is so true. That's so true. All right. Well, oh my gosh, we're out of time. That went by so fast, Katie.
It
So
always does, right?
I know we like to talk. We'll catch up again. We'll have some more time. But I just wanted to tell everybody thanks for tuning in. Check the show notes for information on Katie. And I appreciate all you fabulous office workplace warriors. That concludes another episode of Dear HR Diary by Manage with Hart. Stay fabulous.